Yo, what's up? In this video, I'm gonna reveal to you the 5 most overrated things in Enlisted. Knowing them will help you immensely improve your gameplay, because unlike all other players, you won't fall into the traps of trying out strategies that either don't work or where much better strategies exist. So, let's take a look. And we start with every nerd's favorite autism food, it's statistics. Now, in-game statistics like kill-death ratios for Enlisted don't mean much. They mean so little that you actually can't really use them to distinguish medium from good players, or good from great, or great from absolute world-class players. Now, why is it so? For many nerds, it's quite complicated to understand because A, they assume they understand math and stats, which they don't most often, and B, they don't know when to actually apply specific types of math and statistics. So here's the thing. In a game like Counter-Strike, where KD measurement contests actually originated from, around 20 years ago, you play 5 versus 5. Now, if you play 5 versus 5 and you eliminated one enemy and you're surviving, your enemy team only has 4 players, meaning 20% less, and you still have 5 players. Now, this also means your team is 25% stronger than the enemy team. This is a huge advantage. In Enlisted, if you eliminate one enemy soldier, it literally doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it's like 1 or 2% of the enemy forces, sometimes even less. So this doesn't matter much. Now the other thing is, in Counter-Strike, if you do a trade where you eliminate 2 enemies and you die yourself in the attempt, you are going to get a KD of 2, meaning 2 kills, 1 death. Now the situation looks even better because now you traded positively and your team has a significant advantage. Because your team has now 4 versus 3 enemy players, which means you have 33% more power compared to them. Every single change, every single kill or death change among this team balance means a lot for the whole game outcome. And if you play against extremely good players on Counter-Strike tournaments, it's very hard to get kills and it's very easy to get killed. I'm quite a noob when I try playing Counter-Strike every couple months, although I'm the exact opposite in Enlisted because the required skills are completely different. In Counter-Strike, every single shot, every single kill matters. In Enlisted, it's completely different. What matters in Enlisted is not necessarily get kills, but controlling the overall flow of battle and using strategic multipliers. Now this is the thing. In Counter-Strike, there's no such thing as a strategic multiplier. For example, in Counter-Strike, you have to run through the given parts of the map. And if the enemies defend them well or hold an angle very tight with a sniper rifle, you can't do much. And then you lose. In Enlisted though, we can always set up a rally anywhere on the map we want and flank the enemy. Now, let's say we are some super nerd who constantly produces a so-called good KD by constantly killing twice as many enemies as he loses. So for every squad he loses, he kills 2 enemy squads. This on paper looks very good. Now, let's say he just mindlessly constantly pushes and grinds and grinds and grinds as an attacker. As a defender, this can work out, but as an attacker, well, if you don't get the objective, you lose the game. So UKD of 2 doesn't matter much. Now let's take a look at some other player. He may be a completely new player, he only plays since 1 week, but he luckily discovered our Paradivision channel, became a member of the Paradivision, and learned, oh, first thing I do as a good player, I'm building a rally. And instead of pushing and hitting my head against the enemy defense wall, I'm just gonna set up a flanking rally and help my whole team spawn on this rally and attack the enemy in his weak spot. There won't be much killing involved because since we are hitting a weak spot with less defense, or with possibly no defense at all, we just eliminate 2-3 defenders on the objective and we instantly cap. Now this one player, possibly in the attempt to run towards a position, is going to lose all of his bots, so only his engineer survives. And then he builds a rally and barely survives this because he possibly gets grenaded and so on, or grenade launched from far away. And then after he finished building his rally, he starts to trying to get in and cap the objective and just get shots. Or he steps on an anti-personnel mine. So his KD will be 0 to 7. Let's say he lost 7 soldiers in his squad. It's a horrible KD obviously, but he won his team this objective. and his impact on the game, impact on winning, meaning actually professional productivity, actual in-game productivity that matters, infinitely higher than that of the dude who has a 2-1 KD. So you see, KDs in Enlisted don't really matter. Also, they are skewed depending on what you use. If you use vehicles, if you use P-47s and other things, if you use Tigers or T-34s, you can get ridiculously high KDs. But once again, the only thing that matters in Enlisted is actually getting the objectives. Because in Counter-Strike, you actually win by killing all of the enemy players. In most situations. There are very few exceptions, but usually this instantly wins you the game. So if you do the Rambo and rush into the enemies and just kill everyone and get shot back while shooting the last one, congratulations, you won the game. You're literally the best player in the world now if you can pull this off on tournaments. But in Enlisted, this doesn't help you. This is a strategy game. It's not a shooter game. It's a strategy game. And you have to focus on the strategical objectives, which is most of the time capping objectives or defending them. So just racking up numbers that don't mean much, literally, is not the way how this game is coded to be played. And this, well, you can do it, but don't call yourself, or these people shouldn't call themselves good players. Obviously, we don't, because we understand the truth. It's not a sign of a good player to rank up a good KD. The only thing that really matters is getting wins for your team. This is literally the only thing that matters. And since this game features so many strategies that basically don't give you any good KDs, but still are extremely strong and effective, congratulations, we know, yeah. So, by the way, this also for many new players, obviously a good KD, having a good KD, having an improved KD while also doing the real important strategical actions is an improvement. No one says otherwise. But a KD, and this is the point that people need to understand, and this is also the mathematically precise description, a KD itself is incomplete data. It's literally, it's worthless. As a single isolated piece of information, it's completely worthless. KD plus win rate, this is what matters. Because if you have a good KD and also a high win rate, alright, you're a good player. Even possibly a very good player. But if you have an extremely good KD, but a low win rate, and Ceteris Paribus, you're playing on average maps and confections and so on, it shows that, well, you're not playing the game right, because your KD doesn't impact the game in order to win. So this is the important thing to understand. KDs themselves don't really matter. I could also go deeper in other stats or parameter combinations that you can use on Enlisted, but let's jump to the next point. The big takeaway here is, don't be too spurgy, don't look at numbers myopically and just overvaluing them. Look at what actually matters, and it's the outcome of the game. And Enlisted is actually a very nice, deep strategic game where you can, with ridiculously bad numbers, actually constantly win. At number 2 we have vehicles. Now, they give you some really deceivingly luring advantages that obviously are very welcome, like getting huge numbers of kills, grinding quickly, getting lots of experience, or having an easy or fun time just sitting in a gray zone and shelling enemies with your high explosives, or bombing enemies or dropping rockets. This is also great. This is very fun, but it's not always the optimal thing to do. And very often it's really detrimental to your team's overall aspirations, because in many situations in Enlisted, just playing 10 infantry squads would be much stronger than playing infantry plus tanks plus planes. Everyone knows this. I don't have to tell this to anyone. Everyone knows this who play this game. But most people can't hold themselves back. I also, when you see many games, when you play with me in Discord, when I don't take the enemy serious, I usually sit in a plane, because I don't have to think when flying around. I can just click and read something, or listen to stuff, or just talk with people. It's literally brain dead mode. It's completely relaxing. It's literally like meditation. And it's really nice. But if the enemy is actually strong and demand some intellectual attention and some good strategy and focus from your side, then very often the only thing that can win you the game is infantry. So keep in mind, the big takeaway here is use vehicles when they are actually impactful or necessary, but when you see we're not getting really ahead, or when you think we can actually accomplish our goal by capturing or defending with infantry instead of a vehicle, usually if you want to become better at the game, playing infantry is the much better play. Especially if you can set up new rallies. Yes, I repeat it constantly, but it's literally the solution to every problem in Enlisted. Literally to 90% of problems in Enlisted, you can solve them with rally points. And I won't get tired of repeating it. I thought I would, but actually I got used to it, so yeah. Now I'm perpetual mobile with this rally point propaganda. So yeah, infantry usually better, and don't overrate vehicles. Also not for the enemies, because if very often, for example, I see that when I'm noobing around on a plane and I'm literally getting 5 kills per minute, which is, or like 5 kills per 2 minutes, which is nothing. Yeah, which is literally not being, which is sitting on your toilet, which is not even participating in the game. When I fly around and I see an enemy pilot shooting me down, I think to myself, dude, you're literally taking away the possibly most dangerous player in the game, who doesn't do anything, and now you force me to play infantry. And now you force me to actually work against your team. And this is very true for many situations. Very often when you see an enemy pilot not doing much, or you see a weak plane that can't possibly do much, just ignore him, don't shoot him down. Because this is like having one player less in the enemy team. And playing 10 versus 9, having 11% more team power, this is great. I like those odds. And if you have 2 enemy players who are vehicling around, even if an enemy plane is bombing sometimes and just getting 10 kills per bombing run, it's still not that good, because he still has to fly around. And if you, for example, just say, okay, they have the air superiority. Air superiority is only really relevant in real life when you have dangerous planes. But in Enlisted, air superiority only rarely matters something. For example, if you look at my full games, the only games where I specifically care about air superiority are the Normandy games. Because there you have lots of open maps and the strongest planes in the game. But basically anywhere else, I don't care about planes. I basically completely don't care about planes, because I know they won't do much. They won't do much. In Moscow, tanks are the king, but planes aren't really relevant. Only of secondary value. And most of the time, when you see, alright, let the enemies have air superiority, so what? These players don't perform. They don't impact the game, so we don't care about them. If you ignore them, congratulations, now you have virtually a stronger team, because they have less players who actually do something. Related to this notion of overvaluing vehicles is overvaluing single players or single people in a team. Now, here's the big thing. This is a team game. It's strictly a team game. It's not a game where the performance of a single player matters. Because no matter how a single player performs, the only outcome that's relevant after a game is how the team played as a whole and which team won. This is very hard for people, especially people with low self-esteem, to understand. Or people who perceive they have high self-esteem, but it's just fake. It's fragile esteem, it's not real self-esteem. Now, here's the thing. Many people think, oh, I'm good at this game, and if we win, it's because of me, and if we lose, it's because of the bad teammates. Yeah, alright, this can be true, but does it help you though? Does it help these people to improve? No, because people with such a mindset are gonna stay losers for the rest of their lives. Because this mindset excuses everything, it excuses every fuck up, it excuses staying an idiot, it excuses being toxic, and it prevents someone from growing. Because no matter how bad or hard a game is, you can learn. And if you're a really good player, you can only learn from the very hard games. And if you're used to winning constantly, it's not because someone is really good, it's because someone is playing against people who aren't really good. That's how people constantly win. And exactly this is the most dangerous poison someone can have in his mind, is that thinking, oh, I did my best, my teammates lost the game. No, it doesn't even matter. It literally doesn't matter. It's a sign of people being trapped in a low paradigm. For example, when I play, I either play brain dead just to play together with people, to have fun, or I play just basically as a background and I listen to other things while playing, because I don't really think while playing most of the time. But if I play serious games, I literally want my enemies to be as hard as possible and to be as strong as possible, preferably overwhelmingly strong, so I have to come up with completely new ideas. And so that as the best outcome, I even see new ideas from them and see using them new angles, new flanks, new strategies, and so on. So overvaluing what the single player does is one of the easiest way to stay a noob forever. What really matters is how your team performs as a whole and how people evolve. Especially if you're playing with a group of people, but even if you're solo queuing. Now if you're obviously if you're playing with a group of people, you want to analyze each other's gameplay to improve each other so you grow as a group. But if you're solo queue constantly, well, you can do the same, just use every game as a way to learn and improve. Or just use it for fun and then you just ignore the outcome. But once again, this video is with the mindset made to help you improve. And in this case, every game you play, just try to find a way to win games. And once again, it's not about getting a better KD or doing whatever. It's about making sure your team wins and making sure the overall outcome result wins. So basically imagine you're the great general leader of your squad and you're surrounded by a bunch of peasant soldiers who literally don't do anything, but you still have to win with them and you're responsible for the team. Because normal people, they are mentally so fucked up, they can't be responsible for anything. So the only one who has the responsibility is you, so use it and you're gonna grow immensely and you're also gonna experience many more wins. Number 4 is something Gaijin doesn't want you to know, but which is the absolute truth, and it's also a very good truth. And it's that premium stuff isn't really better than normal stuff. This is the very simple truth. Most premium squads you can buy are worse than the squads you can build yourself. Very, very few exceptions are actually stronger than what you get in-game. And of these things, the ones that are stronger, they are also specifically stronger. For example, the Calliope and the rocket launcher truck for the Germans in Normandy, they are very fun to play. They are quite strong. Offensive power is ridiculous, but they are very easy to destroy. So them being some very special type of content, having some very strong offensive power, comes also with quite a weak defense. It's very easy to blow them up. So people can't say, oh, this is overpowered, there's nothing like that in the game. Yeah, but the Jumbo still, the Jumbo still possibly outperforms, but even if the Jumbo doesn't outperform the Calliope, the Tiger definitely outperforms the German version. And I'd much rather have the Tiger than the German thing. And you see, this is one of the prime examples of having overpowered content in the game that actually isn't that overpowered. There are some exceptions, like some planes, which have, if they are premium, have additional bombs or additional rockets. Yeah, this is literally the definition of strictly better and just better than what the game gives you. But once again, it doesn't really impact the game. It doesn't really change the balance of the game, because I never care about premium squads. I can't remember a single game out of over 1000 games I played where I cared about the enemy having premium squads. Unless it's for beautiful uniforms. This is literally the only thing I care about in that regard. When it comes to infantry, it gets even more ridiculous. There are some squads that are perceived as being overpowered, like the early MG42 squad in Moscow. Yes, it's a German squad that has some prototype MG42, which is actually better than the normal MG42, which by the way is historically accurate, because prototype doesn't mean some inferior, more primitive version. It means very often all the ideas that were created by the engineers and all the demands that were written down and ordered by the general staff, they are being put into a weapon. Now, these prototypes very often are really overpowered, really strong, but they are too fragile. or they're too complicated to use, or whatever, or the logistics don't make it possible to repair and get enough ammunition or stuff like that. So prototypes sometimes can be stronger than the end result, because the end result will most of the time also get a little bit less complicated, more straightforward, which leads to loss of performance, but which makes it much easier to use and to apply for a large army. So historical accuracy isn't really a problem with these squads, but the overpoweredness of the MG42 early version is definitely there. It's very strong, it has basically no recoil, very fast and hard hitting. Now, people claim, oh, this is completely overpowered, how can I win against this as a Soviet? Well, you win against it by whipping out your self-made machine gunner squad and just laughing at the whale, because the whale has, I think, 4 machine gunners in a squad. 4 machine gunners, maximum 5, but I think it's actually only 4, versus 7 or fewer soldiers. Now guess what? Which squad is gonna win? 1 versus 1. Come on, you know the answer. You know the answer. It's the fact is premium squads are most of the time very small. They are smaller than normal versions, and the only exception I've ever seen where a premium squad is literally possibly the strongest squad in the game, or one of the strongest squads, is with the upcoming Normandy paratrooper squads that you can win. Now the ones that you can buy, they come with already really good weapons, and they're actually strong. Though I wouldn't necessarily call them significantly stronger than the normal squads. For example, these squads that are buyable and unlockable in the current event, they are really good, and they seem they appear to be intimidating and overpowered. But okay, what do they have? They have only 6 soldiers, and they have 6 FG42s for the German one. Alright, this is very good, this is very strong. But if it's literally only about that, you can build a rifleman squad and put in 9 riflemen, or 8 riflemen, 1 engineer, or even better, 1 engineer, 1 anti-tank gunner, 1 radio man, and 6 riflemen. You give everyone an FG42, and now you have 50% more soldiers compared to the paratrooper squad. And you can always build engineer stuff without having to waste time and dropping down and taking the right equipment to have an engineer. And you can call artillery strikes. You can do all of it instantly when you spawn. You don't waste time para-dropping, doing stuff, getting possibly shot, running around. So once again, even though these squads appear to be very strong, overall they are not that much stronger. And I would also assume, if the only advantages they appear to have are some really strong weapons, congratulations, good old rifleman squad once again wins. And for the last number 5, I had a bunch of candidates. I can give you the honorable mention of paratroopers, since we already talked about them in the premium segment. Paratroopers are only really good if you are extremely fast, and if you as an attacker start capping before the defenders actually can defend. This is when they're really overpowered. Or in the Pacific, when you can actually jump around the islands without having to go through the water, which sometimes can take infinite time, then they are really good. But in my experience, using them a couple of times and seeing people use them constantly, who are also good players, I've seen that in real games, they just lack performance. Paratroopers in this game, on paper, look absolutely overpowered, but if you actually look at how they perform in the game itself, they are much worse. They're much worse because real life has has lots of intricacies, and the paratroopers just fail. They just fail, and I personally stopped completely using them in the Pacific. I possibly will use them for fun in Normandy, but once again, not that strong. I'm going to make a specific video about it, where I'm going to explain how to actually use them to be really good. But here's the big takeaway: they are really overrated. But they are not as overrated as the next thing that we actually want to talk about, and it's the bomber raids. Now, why do I pick them specifically? Very simple. People constantly take bomber raids, they constantly call bomber raids, and they constantly mess up. But the thing is, not only that you mess up, you also make it impossible for your teammates to call actual good artillery strikes. Here's the big problem. If you start a game with a bomber raid, let's say you're an attacker, and you want to clear out an open objective. There's nothing easier to call a quick artillery strike, just start the game, run towards a flank, call an artillery strike, build a quick rally, then wait for 5 to 10 seconds and then attack. Basically in every single open map in this game, with this sequence, up to the perfect second that I just explained, you can create a perfect attack where the enemy gets artillery striked, since you have to wait for around 25 seconds until the artillery strike starts after being called, and you wait for the strike and then you attack with your infantry and you're gonna cap the objective in 5 to 10 seconds. But what do people instead? Well, they mess all of this up by calling a bomber raid, which takes forever, which takes around 1 minute, even after being made faster with a recent update, and which can be shot down. Now here's the big thing, and this has to do with basically military economics. If you call a bomber raid, you are taking away around 2 artillery strikes from your team. So instead of having 2 strikes that will 100% happen because you can't stop them, you give the enemy the chance to actually defend. Also, if the enemy has a useless pilot in the air, which as we already saw in number 2 comes up very often, you actually make him useful. So if you compare the 2 states, on one hand we could have called an artillery strike, created a perfect strong attack and kept the objective. And basically not lost a single really, basically without any losses. Now this is the one state. The other state is calling a bomber raid, not getting some fast clearing of the objective, having to be involved in a grind where your attacker team loses lots of tickets, and your enemy pilot that was possibly a useless player now has actually something to do. So on one side you're basically playing 10 versus 9 because the enemy has a useless pilot in the air and you have a strong attack. But in this situation you're playing 10 versus 10, so you lose the advantage of the enemy being a vehicle noob and you lose the advantage of a fast strong attack. And even if your bomber raid succeeds, congratulations, the bomber raid very often doesn't do that much, especially not against good enemies. Because what's the best thing a bomber raid can do? Hitting enemies, because it's a large area, that are outside of the objective, possibly running from the gray zone towards the objective, and blowing up random rally points scattered around the map. Now, this describes perfectly playing against a bad team. Because enemies who spawn in the normal gray zone are a bad team because they don't have lots of rallies. And also having exposed open rally points that can be easily destroyed or easily lost, also a bad team. If you're playing against good teams, they won't run around in the open because they will have tight rallies, so they're not exposed, and the rallies also themselves will be quite protected. So you see, this bomber raid scenario, it in itself is very bad, and the only situation for it to actually be helpful is if you're playing against bad enemies. But do you need bomber raids to get bad enemies to win? Of course not. Yes. You could argue if your own team is also bad, yeah, but come on. Just having artillery is just much, much better. Having artillery is ridiculously better. It just amazing. Like artillery, the strongest thing is even that it's fast. And it's fast and you can actually impact the game where something's going on. If you wait for too long, the area where the fight is or where the enemies are, or where the enemy has a position with like a heavy machine gun nest, it changes. And even if the heavy machine gun nest stays there, if you wait for too long, he's gonna have killed 20-30 of your soldiers. So yeah, this is the thing. Speed, precision, and inevitability of not being able to defend or prevent the artillery strike, these are properties that are just way too strong. Way too strong. So I recommend just not using bomber raids. They're literally not worth it. They're literally just not worth it. Try it out yourself. I tried them out. I was so confused about how bad they are, if you actually think about it, that you will never use them again. But what about if you're a defender? What about just blowing up the whole enemy area where they're attacking? Yeah, same problem. whenever I'm playing Japanese or Americans in the Pacific, and we are on the basic map, which comes up all of the time. You know which one I mean, where you start on the beach and you have this little trench with this little wooden bunker, and the attackers have a hill on the left side and the beach side on the right. And this map very often just ends on the first objective because the attackers don't manage to attack. Now, if the attackers are very good, they do exactly the same thing that I described, where they call a perfectly timed artillery strike, rally point, flank attack, and they kept the objective in 5 to 10 seconds. Now, this is how I always do it, and this I don't even care about this first objective because I automatically assume already that I'm gonna cap it in 10 to 15 seconds without any trouble. But what if I'm defending? Well, I apply a similar strategy. Depending on where I spawn, I either build a rally either build a rally point and a heavy machine gun and call a strike, or I just build a rally, call a strike, and wait and defend on the point. The thing is, the fast artillery strike is really important because if the enemies are playing perfectly and giving you a strong and fast push, the only thing that can exactly cut them off is an artillery strike on your own objective, because their fast push with possibly 3-4 squads will be completely annihilated with your fast artillery strike. And once again, in this situation, having a bomber raid, having to wait, the bomber raid is gonna, and I see this in the Pacific constantly, bomber raids are starting to drop bombs when the fighting is already over. So yeah, this is a very funny situation that you want to avoid. You always want to see it on the enemy side, but not on your own side. So yeah, that's it. The 5 most overrated things in Enlisted. I'm very sure you learned something that's very useful for your playing. And it's gonna help you win more games and also have more fun, because getting better at a game and exploring new thoughts and strategies and points of view is one of the nicest things about games. Because understanding a game better is the same thing as having more fun. So, let me know what you think. And if you're new, make sure you like and subscribe and share with your friends, because they're gonna profit a lot from this video. So, until next time, goodbye.